Hi, I'm Mark with Northwest Queens. Today we're going to talk about making a bottom board that works well in the Northwest damp climates. Right now it's March and I'm changing out a lot of my bottom boards that the hives wintered over on. And what I'm finding, as usual, is down in the bottom of the bottom board it's extremely wet. There's dead bees, mold, a few slugs climbing around. It's not very attractive for a healthy colony to live above this type of structure. So I've come up with an approach that's a fairly low cost approach that uses a reversible bottom board. We're talking what you might find at Western Bee on special for $3.75 each. And we're going to take that and modify it so that it works better in our climate. So let's go to the hardware and see what I've come up with, and we'll talk about what I've done. Let's begin at the entrance. Let's just recap a reversible bottom board, 3/8 inch. We won't be using that side, so we paint it and just ignore it. The 3/4 inch side we will be using, and we will use the adjustment stick to get the various wintering, spring, and summer entrance sizes. So in the front, the first modification I've done is I've cut off the front of the cedar boards directly under the hive body structure, and what that allows me to do is insert a U-shaped piece of screening. This U-shaped piece of screening is stapled to the main structure of the body, and the rest of it just wraps around and forms a flat surface, perfectly flat surface, and then I slide in the same dadoed tracks the front entrance walkway, and that just pushes up against the screening, which is fairly rigid, and it makes a flat surface. What this does is it breaks the water. When we get a good downpour, the water that wants to flow into the hive, and it doesn't take much. You could re-level or level each hive to slope it, which I used to try and do, but that's a lot of work. Now you can place your hives perfectly level, and if water approaches, it will go down through this screening mesh and out onto the ground. That's improvement one. The second improvement I've done is I've created a rail that is inside of the main 3/4 inch support tracks that's approximately 3/16 of an inch wide. Too wide and it interferes with the frame. Too tall, we're about 1/8 of an inch tall, or a little more than 1/8, a heavy 1/8 of an inch tall, maybe 3/16 tall, 3/16 wide. So what we've got is we've formed for moisture that is coming under the box, which a lot of moisture runs down the outside of the box, and they usually don't propolis the bottom crack too well, and you'll get moisture that flows under there, and it comes right in to their living quarters. So this little barrier or dam wall that I've created stops that moisture from doing that. And I use just a piece of low-cost cedar fencing that I ripped this off of. The entire structure that we're adding to the inside needs to be watertight. So be sure if there's any cracks in it that you provide a little caulking. I use this Silicon 2 stuff, which is a XTS brand, I believe. The Silicon 2, Home Depot sells it. It is the best, very elastic, the best caulking material that I've ever found. So you've created a very tight dam wall around here. Now the next step would be when you ask yourself, when the box goes on here, and I brought just a partially assembled box, when that takes shape, and drops on there, you notice that we've got a little slide action available there. Well, if you center it in there, the way I've spaced the size of this is there's about 1/8 of an inch on each side of space. And in this climate, when we get in extremely cold periods where we're below freezing for days on end, you get icicles that form inside on the inner pine box. And when those icicles melt, and that frost melts on the inside, it runs down the inside of the box. So what I've done, or what will happen, is that water that runs down the inside will go into this crack that's created at the bottom and exit out the bottom underneath the hive body, which that's kind of a benefit to this, but it's depending upon how you center the hive body, it may or may not get that extra function. But that should really help keep the water from flooding the bottom of your hive. Now what I've done as a finish step here is I've used an old iron in wax, beeswax, or if you didn't have any available beeswax, use some paraffin. And it's an outside project. You don't want your iron set so hot that there's smoke. You don't want to breathe that smoke. You don't want to produce any smoke. And you want to be upwind of the smoke, if there is any. So heating paraffin is something that you want healthy beekeepers and healthy bees. So put paraffin around here, and when you wax it into it, it makes a little bit of a kind of a bubbling sound, like you're cooking a chicken in a skillet on the stove. You'll hear a kind of a bubble, and it penetrates into the wood and forms a water barrier that the bees like. And each year when you clean these, the pressure washer that you run over the surfaces will do an excellent job, and it will return it to what looks like absolute new condition year after year. So that kind of summarizes where we're at today with a low-cost, low-budget bottom board. If you have any comments or questions, or come up with an idea that maybe takes us one step further, just drop me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.